Lovely.
Thanks.
So then, good morning, everyone. My name is Laura Phelps, and I'm going to talk to you this morning about the Welsh election, which is coming up soon. Um, so in the, oops, yes, okay. Um, so there's going to be a Welsh election on the 7th of May. So today we're going to talk about three main things. We're going to talk about the difference between the UK government and the Welsh government. We're going to talk about how to register to vote for the election, and find out who is allowed to vote and who isn't. And also who your representatives are and how they can help you. So who are the politicians who are available to help you in your area in Wales. The Forgive me, my slide is changing very slowly. Okay. The reason that I'm going to speak to you today is because last year the Welsh Government gave us some money to make some materials that are especially for people who are new to Wales. So they haven't voted in an election here before. So we made some materials that are for teachers, for students to kind of find out more about voting in Wales. Those materials are available on a website called Democracy Classroom. The link is at the bottom here, but I'll also share that in the chat at the end. So this is kind of a resource that's perhaps more suitable for teachers, for ESOL teachers. And what we're going to look at today is kind of a version of those materials. So we're going to look at some of the information from parts 1, 2, and 3 about government and parties, about councils and surgeries, and about registering to vote. There's also a fourth slide pack, which is called community action, but we're not going to look at that today. So these are kind of, if there's any ESOL teachers present, these things are available on Democracy Classroom for you to use. So if we get started, so here with part 1 about government and parties in the UK and in Wales. So the UK is a democracy. People can vote for the leaders they want. So today I'm just going to talk about how that process works in Wales, and how you can choose your leaders here. So if we have a look at the pictures on the slide, maybe you recognise some of these people, some of these places. Maybe you know which country is shown in the map at the bottom. Maybe you've been to some of these places. So here, obviously in the UK, there are 4 nations, there are 4 countries. So England is the largest, that's the one in red on the map, and Scotland in the north in blue. Wales, the best country, obviously, in green, and then Northern Ireland, so that top part, the yellow part of the island that's next to us. So the rest of the country, obviously, is Ireland, which is in the European Union, but is not part of the UK. That's just our friend and neighbour. And then, of course, Keir Starmer. So he's the Prime Minister of the UK, and he works in Westminster in London. And then Wales also has its own government. So that's in the Senedd in Cardiff Bay. Maybe you've been past this building before. And then this woman is Senedd Morgan. So at the moment, she is the First Minister in Wales. So these people kind of have similar jobs, but their job title is different. So Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister of the UK, and Senedd Morgan is the First Minister of Wales. So Wales has 2 governments, so it can be a little bit confusing sometimes. So the Welsh Government controls various things. For example, it controls education. It can decide about schools and colleges and universities in Wales. It controls health in Wales, and it controls transport. So you might have seen on the trains, we've got Transport for Wales. That's the responsibility of the Welsh Government. But the Welsh Government doesn't control everything itself. So, for example, the UK government controls the police in Wales, well, in the whole of the UK. It controls power, gas and electric, and it also controls immigration. So the Welsh Government can't make any decisions about who can come here and how they can come here. So the election that's coming on the 7th May is for the Welsh Government. It's a Senedd election, a Welsh Government election. So you might recognise this building in Cardiff Bay. And you can see, of course, there's 2 languages on the building because Wales has 2 official languages. So in English, Welsh Parliament, that's the building. And in Welsh, the Senedd Cymru. so Parliament Wales. This building is it's open to the public, so if you want to look inside and see what people are doing, that's possible. There's very small security, but this building is open. It's for everyone to go inside and have a look. So the Welsh Parliament, or the Senedd, we have elections in Wales every 4 years, and the next one is coming really soon. So the election will be on the 7th of May this year. British citizens, of course, can vote in the election, but also so can people with visas. So if you are in Wales with a work visa or a spouse visa, you can also vote in the election in Wales. Refugees can also vote. So if you have your documents, so if you were an asylum seeker before, maybe, and then you got your status, you're also allowed to vote in Wales. Unfortunately, asylum seekers can't vote. So if you're waiting for a decision from the government, at the moment you're not able to vote. But in the future, when you get documents, when you get status and become a refugee, then you can. So lots of people can vote in the Welsh Government election. And then just here again, so here is Senedd Morgan, so she's the First Minister. So she is in the Labour Party. The Labour Party is in power now in Wales. That may or may not change on the 7th of May. And she works in the Senedd, this building in Cardiff Bay. And with her, there are 96 members of the Senedd. They're often just called MSs, members of the Senedd. Their job is to vote on things that are going to happen in Wales and to check that Senedd Morgan is doing a good job. If they're worried about something that she's doing, then they can speak to her. They can advise her and say this maybe isn't such a good idea. So the members of the Senedd are there to support the work of the government. And then just thinking about comparing Wales with the UK. So here is Westminster in London. Maybe you've been here, seen the big clock, Big Ben. So here, the UK government, so the UK Parliament is often just called Westminster. And in the UK, there are general elections. That means the same as a UK election every 5 years or less. So sometimes it could be every 2 years. If something happens and the government says, yes, we should have an election now, it could be less than 5 years. The next UK election is not for a while. It should be before the 29th of August, 2029. So not yet. But if we look here at who can vote, more people can vote in Wales than in the UK. So in the UK, British citizens, of course, can vote. But unfortunately, people with visas cannot vote in UK elections. Refugees cannot vote in UK elections. And asylum seekers cannot vote in UK elections. So it's a bit more strict for the UK. And then here, there he is again, Keir Starmer. So at the moment, he is the Prime Minister of the UK. He's also in the Labour Party, and he works in Westminster. There's a lot more members of Parliament, MSs, than there are members of the Senate. Sorry, MPs than there are members of the Senedd, MSs. So there's 650 MPs who are working in Westminster, and they're doing the same job. They're making sure that Keir Starmer is doing the right thing, that he's working well, working correctly. So in Wales, MS, and in the UK, MP, but it's the same kind of job. So the Labour Party is in power now. Keir Starmer and Senedd Morgan are both in the Labour Party. But when the election comes on the 7th of May and people are going to vote, maybe they will vote for a different party to come in. So I don't know if you know the faces of these two men, popular for different reasons. And if you know the names of any other parties that are in Wales and the UK, maybe you've seen on social media. So in elections, people can vote for a party like the Labour Party, or sometimes they vote for an independent candidate. So that means just one person who doesn't belong to a party, but they stand alone and they ask people to vote just for them. So sometimes you'll see this as well. You will also see smaller parties. The 6 you can see in the list here, these are like the biggest parties that you'll probably hear about before the Welsh election in May. So the red one, Labour Party, are in power at the moment. Maybe you remember before Labour, the Conservative Party were in power. If you remember Rishi Sunak, so he's Conservative. The Green Party becoming more popular this year. So when they started, they were mostly about the environment. So you think of like green and trees. They're about the environment, climate change, but they have policies on lots of different areas, of course. Reform, so that is this man here on the left. This is Nigel Farage. You see him all over social media. This party has become more popular in the last few years. And then we've got also Plaid Cymru, so the Party of Wales. If you remember on the Senedd building, Senedd Cymru, Parliament Wales. So Plaid Cymru is Party of Wales. So that one is just for Wales. And then also the yellow one, Liberal Democrat. So there's 6 main parties. I am not allowed to tell you exactly what they believe, in case I tell you wrong information or in case I give you my own opinion. But these are the main 6 parties. So how can you know who to vote for if I can't tell you what they believe? How can you find out who is the right party for you? Well, every party writes a manifesto. So this manifesto is a document and it explains what the party believes and what it plans to do. If you vote for them, we will. So you can search for parties' manifestos on their websites, but an easier way, now we have ChatGPT. So if you feel confident with AI, you could compare them on ChatGPT. You could type something like compare parties' manifestos for Welsh election, 7 May. And then ChatGPT can give you a simple summary. So I apologize. I can't speak more when I've given this presentation before. People have asked me, which one is good? What do they believe? Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to share that with you or to give my opinion. Okay, so we're also going to look about how to register to vote. Okay, so if you can vote in the election, so for example in Wales, if you're a refugee or if you've got a visa, you can vote. So we're going to look now about how to do that. So first, just to summarise who can vote. So in the UK election, in the general election, the age is different as well. So you must be 18 or over to vote in the UK election. And just a reminder there, so British citizens can vote, but nobody else can. There's an extra group here, maybe you can see at the bottom, so prisoners as well. If someone is in prison, then they lose their right to vote until they come out of prison, come out of jail. But in Welsh elections and local elections, things are slightly different. So you only have to be 16 to vote in Wales. So age 16 and over can vote in Wales. And remember, British citizens can, people with visas can, refugees can, only asylum seekers cannot and prisoners cannot, the same as in the UK. So if you have the right to vote, you have to register. And this is really important because today is the 17th of April and the last day to register is the 20th of April. So that's Monday. This is your deadline. This is the last day. So you should get a letter at your home that tells you how to register. So if you have the right to register, you should receive a letter. But sometimes there's a mistake. Sometimes you don't get a letter. So if you haven't got one, you can use this website. Let me just see if we can open this to have a look. Yeah, absolutely. So it says here, register to vote. Okay, so it looks like this. You come down here, start now, and it says it takes about 5 minutes. It's quite simple. It's quite easy to use. So here, for example, clicking on Wales, continue. What is your nationality? Okay, so you get the idea. It's about 5 minutes to do that. So you can use this website to vote. If you didn't receive a letter already, make sure you do that this weekend so you don't miss your chance. If you try to use that website, but it's not clear or it doesn't work, you can also go to a library tomorrow. They're closed on Sunday, but you can go to a library and the hub staff will help you to register. Okay, so you've got 2 different ways that you can still do it. And on the day, on the 7th of May, you can vote in person. You can go there in person. Or if you organise now before the 20th of April, you can vote by post. So, for example, if you're on holiday, if you're not in the UK, if you're not in Wales on the right day, on the 7th of May, then you can vote by post before the election. However, you can't vote online for security reasons, so it has to be in person or by post with a letter. And just something important to note here, if you give false information, so if you register to vote, but you give a fake name or fake details, that's quite serious. So you could face a fine, so you might have to pay money, or you might go to prison for quite a long time. So make sure when you register to vote, you're only including your own personal information. Okay, so let's think about the election day itself. So on the 7th of May, this is a polling station. So this is the place where people go to vote. So you vote in a polling station. You should receive a letter again after you register, and it will tell you the address of your polling station. Usually it's very close to your house. You don't have to travel too far. The polling stations are open from 7 in the morning until 10 at night on election day. So you have a long time to go and vote, even if you're working. They're usually in schools, libraries, community centres. So it's probably a building you know already, but just for this one day, for election day, it becomes a polling station where people can vote. For Welsh elections, so for the Senedd elections, you do not need photo ID. So on the 7th of May, you do not need to take a passport or any documents that shows your photo. It's not necessary. For UK elections, you do need to show photo ID. And I think maybe for local elections, the rules are different. But for this election, for the 7th of May, you do not need photo ID. You can just go to the polling station. And you will have a paper like this, a ballot paper, and you have to write just one cross on the paper. Okay, so you're just choosing one person that you want to vote for. If you're not sure at the polling station, there will be staff. You can ask them any questions. They will help you to vote. And your vote is private, so nobody can see who you're voting for. So it's one cross for the person that you want to vote for. And this is a slightly complicated system. So the system has changed this year in Wales. So how do they decide who is the winner? How do they decide the results of the election? So in the UK, in each area where people vote, there is only one seat that a party can win. So for example, if this is the result, if you look at this graph here, so here you can see, so blue, so 50% of the vote is for blue. And here 30% for orange and 20% for grey. So actually, this is not a majority. The blues didn't really win because these people had the same, this is 50 and 50. But in the UK, only one person can take the seat. Whoever is the winner, who has the most votes, they win. But in Wales now, the system is different a little bit. So in each area, there are 6 seats that candidates can win, and different parties take the seat. So this is kind of more fair. So this is long words, but proportional representation. So it's much better. So people who get votes, they can still get a seat. So you can see here. So for example, if 50% of the votes are for blue, 50% of the seats are blue. And here 20% are orange and 10% are grey. So this is a little bit more fair, perhaps, than in the UK, because here this looks like 100% of people wanted blue, but they didn't. Only half of the people wanted that. So the system in Wales, just recently, just now, this has changed for this election. So vote for whoever you believe is the best. Vote for them, and hopefully they will get one of the 6 seats. Okay, so that's about registering and voting. We're also just going to look quickly at councils and surgeries. So maybe you've seen these buildings before. I don't know if you recognise them. They're in two different cities in Cardiff. Sorry, in Wales. There's one of the answers. So here, the building at the top, this is Cardiff Council building, and the one below is Swansea Council. So councils are small governments for the areas in Wales, for a local area in Wales. And they control things like houses and roads, collecting the rubbish, libraries, parks, things like this. And there are 22 councils in Wales, so kind of small governments. So we also have in Wales local elections. So the election that's coming on the 7th of May, that's a national election in Wales. That's a Senedd election. But there's also elections in the local area, not this year. So local elections are every 5 years in Wales, and people vote for councillors in their area, and councillors work for the people who live in that area. So the next local election in Wales will be next year in 2027. So that you don't need to know it now, but next year you might have this process again about register to vote, and these kinds of things will be coming again next year. So the local elections are the same as the Senedd elections. British citizens can vote, people with visas can vote, refugees can vote, only asylum seekers cannot at the moment. And just to look at the difference between councillors and council staff. So they both work with the council, but they have kind of different jobs. So here at the council, councillors, people vote for them, and they only get a small salary. So they have another job, a main job, and a councillor is something extra that they do. So they have a small amount of money for this, but it's not a lot. But they are not council staff. So the people that work in these offices, they are different. These are council staff, office staff. So they apply for their job and they get a normal salary. So people that work at the council, there's two different groups. There are councillors and there are council staff, and they're a little bit different. So maybe you recognise this situation from your area. Problems like rubbish and seagulls and the streets are not clean. This is why local elections are important. Because you pay council tax and it's expensive. You pay money to your council to run these services, to do this work. And it's, it's a lot of money. It can be 100, 200 pounds in a month or even more. So local elections are important because you have to choose a good councillor, choose someone who will spend your council tax money in the best way. So that's why the local election is important next year. So in Wales, people have 3 representatives, people that can help you with problems. So you have an MS, so a member of the Senedd. You have an MP, so a member of Parliament, the UK government, and you also have a councillor, so in your local area of Wales. So these 3 people can help you with different problems in your life. They can't help with everything. So if you look on the left, you can see, so representatives can help with local services in your area, like rubbish collection. Or if you have a problem with your housing, a housing issue, or about benefits, or health, or something in your community, or they can give you advice about situations. But they can't help you with legal advice. So they're not there in place of a lawyer. You might still need to see a lawyer or a solicitor. They can't help with private business matters or with money matters unless it's about benefits. They can't do police work, they can't make an arrest, and they can't help people with finding work. But there are some things that they can help with. So you vote for these people, they work for you, so use them if you need help with these things on the left. So if you want to speak to your representative, maybe you've seen these kinds of buildings on your high street. So these ones are in my area in Roath. And you can see there, for example, on the left, you see the name of the person. So that's Jenny Rathbone. You can see it's red, so that means she's in the Labour Party. And it says there she is your MS member of the Senedd. So you can go to this place, you can go to this surgery, and you can ask this person for help because they work for you. You might need to make an appointment. So it's a good idea just to check online in advance. If you need to make an appointment first, you might need to call them before you go. Or you have another choice if you can't go in person. This website, which is called Write to Them, will help you to find your representative and to send them a message. It's very easy to use. So if we just have a look together. So here, if you enter your postcode, great. So I enter here, for example, this is my postcode where I live. And I press go. And it tells me who are my representatives. So you can see here, first on the left, here are my councillors. I have 3 councillors in Penellan, and these are their names. At the moment, I can't see my MS because it says there's an upcoming election. The election is coming on 7th of May, so that information will change after the election, and I can see who is my MS. And I can also see here who is my MP, my Member of Parliament. So if I want to write to someone, so for example, let's have a look. So here about my councillor, it tells me here they can help me with local services and policy, about transport, roads, education, social services, libraries. So let's see, maybe I want to write to this person. So I can click his name. And here I can write a message. Dear John Shannon, I am writing to da 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 here. Then I can just here complete my details and send. So it's really, really easy. So if you have a problem and you need help from your representative, phone them, make an appointment at the surgery, or use this website. They're there for you to help you. So make sure you use the services that they offer. So that's Write to Them. I'll put that in the chat at the end as well. Okay. So that's kind of the end for today of what I want to speak to you about directly. But there's more places that you can go for information. So this is a nice simple website that's made by the Welsh Government. So vote.wales. We'll have a quick look at that. It's nice and simple. So you can see here important dates. Register to vote by the 5th of April. You can find here again, for example, if I want to find my polling station, I enter my postcode. I'm not going to choose this is not my address, but okay, not available yet, not very helpful. Okay, so maybe closer to the election, we can see this. Let's try again for a different one. Let's try here. Okay. Okay, polling station is not available yet. Okay, but maybe in the next couple of days it will be able to show you that. And there's also this Instagram account, which the person here, they explain the like the manifestos of each of the parties in quite a simple way. So they make short videos to say what each of the parties believe. So as well as using ChatGPT to find the information, you could also, if you like Instagram, you could go on here. I don't use Instagram, so I'm not going to be able to look at very much. But here, this is like super, super simple, just videos and posts that explain what different parties believe. So you could also have a look at that before the election time. Okay, so what do we want? Yeah, 25 too. Okay. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, you're very welcome to. I'm not a political expert, so I may not know the answer to your question. My background is that I'm an English teacher and I work with migrants, so I may or may not know the answer, but you're very welcome to ask questions if you have any, and I'll be happy to try to answer. Thank you very much. Okay. Lovely. I'm just going to answer the question that's in the chat here. Anyone else, if you want to ask a question, you can switch on your microphone and ask a question, or if you want to type a question in the chat, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, people on the Ukraine scheme visas, as far as I know, yes, can vote. I'm just going to check that now for you. Yeah, we are quite for Ukraine. Not helpful. Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly certain. I'm 95% certain the answer to your question is yes. If you're a refugee from Ukraine, then yes, you should be able to. I don't know if that is.
Wales is a diverse country with people from a range of ethnic, national.
Okay, we don't need that. Um, but yes, I'm fairly certain that you can. If you want to check that again, if you go into the library or the hub that's closest to you, they'll be able to confirm. But I'm 95% sure that yes, you can vote. Would anyone else like to ask any? No, yeah, I take your point. They're not legally refugees in that situation. If you're on a Ukraine scheme visa, I do understand what you mean, Hannah. I believe, forgive me if I'm wrong, I believe you are entitled to vote. But yeah, maybe if you go to your um I don't want to check on ChatGPT in case that's the wrong answer. Go to the hub. Go to your local library to the hub, and they will be able to tell you for sure. Um, but yeah, I'm reasonably sure that you can. No problem. Thanks, Anna. Oh, okay. Yeah, good question. So Hannah's asking, how do they know who is voting if ID is not required? So when you go to the polling station, they will ask you for your name, they'll ask you for your postcode, and they will look you up on the system. They will check that the information matches. If you remember, so the letter that you receive at home where it tells you the address of your polling station, this is like your polling card. If you remember, take it with you when you go to vote. And then they can check it. It's much quicker for them to find that information. But if you forget it, it's no problem. They've got their laptops there. They can find you from your surname, your date of birth, your postcode. If you've already registered, then they will know that you have the right. So don't worry about taking photo ID for this election. It's definitely not needed. Thank you for your questions, Hannah. Does anybody else have any questions? If I register today, do I get the letter in time? Yes, absolutely, Hannah. Yeah. So Monday is the last day to do it. If you do it today, then certainly you will receive the letter in time. Yeah, with the information about your polling station. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Monday is the last day. Okay. If there are no other questions, then I'd just like to thank everybody for coming and for listening today. I hope it was useful. And happy voting. And maybe see you again. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Adult Learning Wales. And thanks for coming.